Welcome. Welcome to this quiet hour. Let your shoulders soften. Let your hands rest wherever they are resting. Let the day you have carried slip gently to the floor beside you. There is nothing here that needs your attention. Nothing to remember. Nothing to solve. The only work of this hour is to breathe slowly and to let a warm and unhurried world come forward around you, like a curtain drawn open by a patient hand. Take a breath in through your nose and let it out slowly through slightly parted lips. And again, in and out. Feel the small weight of your head against whatever supports it. Feel the length of your legs. Feel the quiet, steady presence of your own body resting. Tonight, you are going to travel in the softest possible way to a warm desert far from anywhere you have been. It is a desert of low sun and patient wind. Nothing in it hurries. Nothing in it worries. The sun there never climbs high enough to burn, and the wind never rises high enough to sting. The dunes lie in long, soft folds, apricot on top and lavender in the hollows, and the light lingers, always, at that hour just before dusk, when the world seems to hold its breath and forget the time. In this desert, there is a small adobe station. It has walls the color of warm bread, and a roof made of bleached linen, stretched tight and glowing gently in the low sun. There is one keeper here, a dust painter, and there is her nightly work, which is the slowest and gentlest work in the world. You will follow her quietly, without disturbing anything. You will watch her sweep sand from the base of telegraph poles into small brass trays. You will watch her mix pigments in shallow bowls. You will watch her paint long, slow strokes on rag paper, transcribing the patterns the wind has made. There is nothing to understand, nothing to follow. If your mind drifts, let it drift. If your eyes close, let them close. The story will keep going without you, and you can join it again whenever you like, or not at all. Take one more breath, in and out. And now we begin. You are standing at the edge of a low dune, and the sand beneath your feet is warm. Not hot, warm, the way a stone is warm when the sun has just finished with it. The grains are fine and pale gold, and they shift a little around your ankles when you take a step, with a soft whisper, like paper being turned. The sun sits low. It has been sitting low for what feels like a long time. In this place, the sun does not fall the way it falls elsewhere. It seems to settle, slowly, as if it too were tired and glad to rest at the horizon. The light it gives is thick and warm and colored, like ripe apricot, and it spreads across the dunes in long, slow bands. Above you, the sky is doing something patient and beautiful. Directly overhead, it is still the pale blue of late afternoon. Toward the west, where the sun sits, it deepens into a coppery gold. And toward the east, behind you, it has begun to soften into lavender. And then, further still, into a lavender so pale, it is almost silver. You breathe in. The air is dry and warm, and it carries 3 small scents. The first is the mineral scent of the sand itself, clean, almost sweet, like a river stone that has dried in the sun. The second is the smell of dry cedar smoke, faint, drifting from somewhere ahead. And the third is cardamom, a low, spicy note, warm and familiar, though you cannot yet see where it is coming from. You look ahead. A little way off, half buried in the sand, a row of telegraph poles marches across the dunes. They are old poles, made of dark wood, sun-bleached at the tops and darker at the bases. Between them runs a single wire, sagging gently, humming faintly in the low wind. The hum is so soft that you feel it as much as you hear it. A low, steady note, like a distant bee, or like the memory of a bell that rang a long time ago. The poles do not go anywhere in particular. They march over one dune and disappear behind the next, and reappear on the ridge beyond, and vanish again, and reappear, smaller and smaller, until at last they're only a suggestion of a line, drawn faintly on the horizon. You begin to walk. The sand is easy underfoot. It gives a little with each step and settles again behind you. The whisper of it against your ankles is soothing, like the sound of a page being turned in a very quiet room. The low wind pushes gently at your back, guiding you forward, unhurried, patient. Ahead of you, at the base of the nearest telegraph pole, you see something you did not notice before. The sand there is not smooth. It has gathered into a shape, a soft, curved shape, like a comma, lying on its side. The color of the sand is different, too. Where the dune around it is pale gold, this small drift is a warmer color, a deep, dusky ochre, as though the wind had brought it from somewhere far away and set it down here, carefully, on purpose. You slow your steps. Just past the pole, the adobe station comes into view. It is smaller than you expected, and lower to the ground. Its walls are round-cornered, thick, the color of warm bread, and they lean ever so slightly, as though they had been shaped by many gentle hands. The roof is a low canopy of bleached linen, stretched over a frame of pale wood, and it glows faintly from within, as though a lamp were lit inside. At one side of the station, a door stands open. It is a simple door, made of planks and iron nails darkened by age. Beyond it, the interior is dim and warm and full of a soft, golden light. And there, walking out through the doorway, comes the keeper. She is a small woman, not young and not old. Her skin is warm brown, and her hair is bound in a long, dark braid that lies over one shoulder. She wears loose robes the color of dry sand, soft with washing, and around her waist is a wide sash of faded indigo. In one hand, she carries a small brass tray, and in the other, a soft brush, its handle worn smooth by long use. She does not see you, and it does not matter. You are only a quiet presence here, a witness. She goes about her work as she has gone about it 1,000 times before, and she is not surprised by you, and not troubled, and not aware. You are as light as the wind at her back. She walks toward the first telegraph pole, the one nearest the station, and you follow at a gentle distance. Her feet make almost no sound. The hem of her robe brushes the sand behind her, leaving a faint, fanning trail that the wind, patient and unhurried, will smooth away by morning. At the base of the pole, she stops. She kneels slowly and sets the brass tray down beside her. The tray catches the apricot light and glows like a small pool of honey. She looks at the sand. The comma of ochre lies at the pole's base, exactly as you saw it before. Its curve is soft, and its tail tapers to a fine point. The keeper studies it for a long moment. She tilts her head, and then tilts it the other way. Then, with the smallest of nods, as though she has understood something private, she takes up her brush. The brush is made of camel-hair, long and soft. She dips it, once, into the sand beside the drift, so that it takes up a little of the ordinary golden grit. Then, with the softest possible strokes, she sweeps the ochre comma toward her tray. The sound of the brush on sand is barely a sound at all, a low, papery hush, like breath on a window pane. The ochre gathers into a small mound on the brass tray. She works patiently. She takes only the ochre, only the drifted color, and leaves the pale gold sand of the dune undisturbed. Her hand moves in slow, curving lines. Now and again, she pauses to blow, very gently, at a stray grain, and the grain drifts away and settles somewhere else, and the small ochre mound on her tray grows a little rounder, a little fuller. When she is finished, she rests the brush across the edge of the tray. She sits back on her heels. She looks up, once, at the sagging wire above the pole, and listens to its low hum, as though the wire might tell her something more. The hum continues, patient, unchanging. She stands. She lifts the tray with both hands, carefully, so that the small mound of ochre does not shift. She turns and begins to walk toward the next pole, further along the line. You follow. Between the poles, the sand lies in long, low ripples, made by many years of patient wind. The ripples are shallow, no deeper than a finger's width, and they run in curving parallels, like the grain of a very old and beautiful piece of wood. Where the light falls across them, one side of each ripple is warm gold, and the other side is faintly rose. And where the two colors meet, there is a line of soft shadow, exactly the color of the lavender sky in the east. The keeper walks slowly, so as not to disturb the tray. Her breath is steady. Her braid moves gently against her shoulder with each step. The low wind hisses, very softly, across the linen roof of the station behind you, and you hear the sound of it, and it is not sharp at all. It is a hush, a long, drawn-out hush, like a lullaby made only of air. At the second pole, she kneels again. She sets down her tray. She looks at the sand. Here, the drift is different. At the base of this pole, the wind has gathered a small fan of pale pink, the color of rose quartz, or the underside of a shell. The fan spreads outward from the pole in a soft, radiating pattern, like the ribs of a folded hand held open. It is delicate. The keeper studies it. She smiles, faintly, as if she recognizes a friend she has not seen in some time. She reaches into a small pouch at her waist and takes out a second brass tray, no larger than the palm of her hand. She sets it beside the first. Then she takes up her brush again. The rose sand is finer than the ochre. It moves more easily, and she works even more slowly, so as not to lose a single grain. She sweeps it gently, gently, toward the smaller tray. The hush of the brush is barely audible, and yet you can hear it clearly, because there's almost nothing else to hear. Only the low hum of the wire, and the softer hush of the wind, and somewhere very far off, the small, dry click of a beetle walking over a stone. The rose mound grows on the small tray. It gathers like a slow blush, like the color of the sky just before dawn. She works, and does not seem to notice the passing of time. The apricot light lengthens across the sand. The shadows behind each dune stretch quietly, further and further, into the lavender. When at last the rose is gathered, she rests. She sits back on her heels and sets her palms lightly on her thighs and closes her eyes for a moment. She breathes in. She breathes out. The wind moves her braid once, gently, and settles it back against her robe. Then she opens her eyes. She stands and takes up both trays, one balanced in each hand, and begins to walk toward the third pole. The third pole is a little further off. The path between takes her over the shoulder of a low dune, and for a few moments She is only a small figure against the apricot light, her robes glowing faintly, her braid dark, her brass trays catching sparks of gold. You follow, unhurried, and the sand whispers softly around your ankles. At the third pole, she kneels for the third time. Here, the drift is smaller than either of the others, and stranger and quieter. It is a curl of indigo, a deep twilight blue, the color of the sky at the eastern edge of the world. The curl lies against the pole, no larger than her thumb, and it seems to hold within itself a little of the darkness of a place she has never seen. She looks at it for a long time. She does not smile now, and she does not frown. She only looks. Then, at last, she reaches into her pouch and brings out a third tray, smaller still, and lays it in the sand. She takes up her brush, and with the smallest and most patient strokes yet, she sweeps the indigo, grain by grain, onto the little brass dish. The wire above her hums, low and steady. The wind hushes across the linen roof of the distant station. The apricot light softens by a shade, and softens again, and the lavender behind you deepens by a shade, and deepens again, and the world grows, if possible, even quieter. When she is finished, she gathers the 3 trays together, the ochre in the largest, the rose in the middle, and the indigo in the smallest, and she balances them carefully in her hands, and she rises slowly and turns back toward the station. You walk with her. The walk back is unhurried. She takes small, even steps. The brass trays do not shift. The mounds of colored sand ride on them like sleeping animals. The ochre, plump and drowsy. The rose, faintly breathing. The indigo, small and still. The station comes toward you slowly, as though it were walking to meet you. The linen roof glows more clearly now, warmer against the deepening sky. From the small chimney at one corner, a thin ribbon of pale smoke rises, straight and slow. That is where the cedar smell has been coming from, all this while. A small, low fire, laid in a shallow hearth inside, sending up its patient breath. At the door, the keeper pauses. She lifts one foot and knocks the sand from her sandal, and then the other, gently, against the low stone step. Then she ducks through the doorway and into the warm dim of the station. You follow her in. Inside, the light is honey-colored. It falls through the linen roof from above and through a single small window that faces the west, and it pools on the packed earth floor in soft, uneven shapes. The walls are the warm bread color of the outside, but darker here, because the sun does not touch them, and their thickness holds a coolness that is comfortable and welcoming after the long apricot warmth outside. The room is round, or nearly round. It has soft curves rather than corners, and the walls lean inward, gently, toward the top. At one side, the hearth, a shallow, tiled pit with a small fire burning low, its flames the color of the sky at sunset. Above it, on a slender chain, hangs a copper pot that has been polished by 1,000 small cloths and steams, faintly, with the cardamom water inside. Opposite the hearth stands a long, low table of pale wood, worn smooth in the middle from many years of work. On this table lie the tools of the keeper's craft, small ceramic jars sealed with wax, each labeled with a little sun-faded tag, shallow stone bowls arranged in a row, a cluster of camel-hair brushes standing in a clay cup, their handles worn to a soft shine, a wide, low cistern of pale clay, half full of clear water, cool to the touch, even when the day has been long and warm. Along one wall, a rack of scrolls. Rag paper, thick and creamy, rolled and tied with linen thread, resting in niches carved into the adobe. Some of the scrolls are new and pale. Some are older, softened by time to the color of tea. They wait, patient as sleeping cats, until they are needed. The keeper crosses the room to the low table and sets down her 3 brass trays, one after the other, in a careful row. The ochre, the rose, the indigo. She looks at them once and nods. Then she moves to the hearth. She takes up a small clay cup from a shelf beside the fire, and she lifts the copper pot from its chain, and she pours a slow measure of cardamom water into the cup. The steam rises in a soft column. The smell of cardamom fills the room, warm and spiced, a little sweet, a little green, and beneath it, always, the low, patient scent of cedar smoke. She sets the pot back on its chain and cups the warm clay between her palms. She breathes the steam in, slowly. Her shoulders lower. Her braid rests against the indigo of her sash. She turns and carries her cup to the low table and sets it down beside the trays. She sits on a low wooden stool that has been softened by years of sitting, and she looks at her 3 little mounds of drifted color, and she begins her work. Now the making of pigment begins. She takes up the largest of the shallow stone bowls and sets it before her. She lifts a small horn spoon and takes from the ochre tray a careful measure of the drifted sand. She tips it slowly into the bowl. The sand pours in a fine, hissing stream and settles into a small, warm heap at the bottom. From one of the ceramic jars, she takes a pinch of something pale, a powdered mineral perhaps, or a fine white clay, and she adds it to the ochre. From another jar, a drop of something amber, held on the tip of a slender glass rod. It falls into the bowl and vanishes. Then she takes up a small stone pestle, round and heavy and smoothed by many years, and she begins to grind. The sound of the grinding is deep and soft. It is the sound of stone turning against stone, patient and unhurried. The ochre powder darkens under her hand. It becomes finer and warmer and more alive, and slowly a rich golden brown paste gathers at the bottom of the bowl. She grinds and pauses to breathe. She takes a sip of cardamom water. She sets the cup down and grinds again. The apricot light in the small window softens further. The lavender at the edges of the world deepens. The wire, far off, hums its low and endless hum. The wind hisses gently across the linen roof. The fire in the hearth flickers softly and settles and flickers again. When the ochre paste is ready, she sets it aside in its bowl on the far edge of the table. She takes up a second bowl and begins again, this time with the rose. The rose grinds differently. It is a lighter powder, and it responds more quickly to the pestle. Within a few minutes, it has become a soft, dusty pink, the color of the inside of a shell. She adds a single small drop of water from the clay cistern, and the pink deepens and gathers and becomes a pale, luminous rose paste, the color of dawn on a distant window. She sets it aside. For the indigo, she takes the smallest bowl of all. She tips the little curl of blue sand from its tray and looks at it and adds a pinch of something dark and a drop of something else. And she grinds more slowly than before, because indigo is a proud color and does not like to be hurried. The pestle turns. The sound is a low, steady murmur. The indigo darkens and darkens, and at last becomes becomes a deep, quiet blue, the color of a night that has just begun. She looks at it for a moment. She nods. She sets it beside the others. 3 bowls now, waiting on the low table. Ochre, rose, indigo. Beside them, the clay cistern of cool water, and the cup of brushes, and the cup of cardamom water, sending up its slow ribbon of steam. The keeper rises and crosses to the rack of scrolls. She runs her fingers along the niches. Her hand moves without hurry. At last, she chooses one. A fresh scroll, pale and creamy, tied with a plain linen thread. She lifts it down and carries it to the table and sets it beside the bowls. She unties the thread and lays it neatly aside, coiled like a small sleeping snake. She unrolls the scroll slowly until it lies long and open before her, weighted at each end by a small, smooth stone. The paper is thick and slightly rough, and it takes the light of the small window with a warm, welcoming glow. Its surface is uneven in the way that only handmade paper can be, and the tiny irregularities catch the honey-colored light in little glints and shadows. The keeper stands, looking down at the empty scroll for a long moment. Her hands rest at her sides. Her breath is slow. She is not thinking exactly. She is only allowing the shapes of the drifts to settle in her mind, the comma, the fan, the curl, and to arrange themselves in the way they wish to be painted. Then she sits. She takes up the first brush, a broad, soft one, and dips it into the cistern. The water is cool. The clay of the cistern is cool. She lifts the brush and taps it once on the rim, and a small drop of water falls back with a soft, singular sound. She dips the wet brush into the ochre paste. She lifts it, laden with warm, golden brown. She lowers it to the scroll. The first stroke is long and slow. It begins near the left edge of the paper and travels toward the center, curving gently, thinning and thickening, gathering into a soft comma at its tail. The paper drinks the pigment. The ochre settles into the fibers and darkens as it dries and glows. She lifts the brush. She dips it again. She adds a second stroke, just beside the first, a little smaller, a little softer. Then a third. The shape she is making is the comma from the base of the first pole, the ochre comma the wind had left there, but transcribed now in a hand more patient than the wind's, with all the shape's small, quiet meaning held gently in the paint. The whisper of the camel-hair brush on the rag paper is the softest sound in the world. It is a hush without breath. It is the sound of a thought being written down very slowly. It is the sound of a small, warm animal turning in sleep. Stroke by stroke, the comma appears on the scroll. The keeper does not hurry. Now and then she pauses to lift her brush, to lean back, to look at what she has made. Now and then she reaches for the cup of cardamom water and takes a sip, and sets the cup down again. The steam has grown thinner. The water inside is still just warm. The apricot light in the window softens by another shade. The lavender behind her deepens by another shade. The fire in the hearth crackles once and settles, and continues its low, steady breathing. The wire outside hums. When the ochre comma is done, she rests the broad brush across the rim of its bowl. She looks at the mark. She nods quietly to no one. She takes up the second brush, a finer one, its handle a little darker with age. She dips it into the cistern. She taps it once. She dips it into the rose paste and lifts it and lowers it to the scroll a little way to the right of the comma. The rose stroke is different in character. It fans outward from a single point, in 5, then 6, then 7 soft, radiating lines. The keeper works with the tip of the brush now, delicate as a moth's foot. Each ray thins to a point. Each ray shimmers faintly as the pigment settles. The fan grows. You watch the shape emerge on the paper. A soft, radiating fan, the color of the underside of a shell. It is not a hurried shape. It is not a demanding shape. It is only what the wind made at the base of the second pole, transcribed with all the patience the keeper has to give. She pauses, halfway through. She sets down the fine brush. She takes a sip of cardamom water and turns her head slowly toward the small window. Something has caught her eye. On the sill of the window, a small beetle has appeared. Its shell is a soft matte brown, and its legs are the color of ivory. It walks, unhurried, along the wooden ledge, its small feet making the tiniest of clicks against the wood. Clicks so soft you might miss them if the room were not so quiet. The keeper watches the beetle. The beetle walks. It pauses once to consider something invisible. It walks on. It disappears at the far end of the sill into the deepening lavender outside. The keeper smiles faintly. She turns back to her scroll. She takes up the fine brush again. She dips it into the cistern and into the rose paste and continues the fan. 1 more ray. 2 more. Now the fan is complete. It sits on the paper beside the comma, both of them glowing in the honey light. The ochre, warm and grounded. The rose, softly radiating, like a small dawn. She rests the fine brush across the rim of its bowl. She looks at her work. She breathes in. She breathes out. The last shape remains, the indigo curl. For this, she chooses the smallest brush of all. Its bristles are barely wider than a pencil's tip, and its handle is worn to a warm brown. She dips it into the cistern. She taps it, gently. She dips it into the indigo paste and lifts it, laden with the color of a twilight sea. The indigo stroke is a single line. It begins near the base of the paper, curves upward, and turns, at the top, into a small, tight coil. The curl from the third pole, transcribed exactly as it lay in the sand. She works slowly. The brush moves upward. The line thickens, thins, thickens again. The coil at the top tightens, patient and precise, and comes to a small stop at its center. She lifts the brush. The indigo curl sits on the paper beside the fan and the comma. 3 shapes now, in 3 quiet colors, side by side across the scroll. A small language of drift, patiently written down. The keeper sets down the small brush. She rests her hands on the edge of the table. She lets out a long, slow breath. And now, she waits. The paint must dry. There is nothing to do for a little while, except to sit and to breathe, and to watch the honey light soften, and to listen to the low hum of the wire, and the hush of the wind on the linen roof, and the small, settling breath of the fire in the hearth. The keeper takes up her cup of cardamom water. She rises slowly and carries it to a small alcove in the wall opposite the hearth, where a low bench of pale wood runs beneath a second small window, this one facing east. She sits. Through the eastern window, the lavender has deepened. The horizon is now the color of a distant plum. Above it, the sky rises through violet and blue-gray to a pale silver at the top, where the first star has appeared, hanging very small and very still. The keeper drinks. The cardamom is warm on her tongue. She holds the cup between her palms and looks out at the darkening dunes. You may sit with her in your imagination on that low bench, or you may stand quietly by, watching, or you may simply rest wherever you are resting and let your breath match hers, slow, unhurried, in through the nose, out through the parted lips. Time passes. It passes softly here. It passes the way water passes over sand, not disturbing anything. You could not say how long the keeper sits by the eastern window. 10 minutes. 20. Long enough for the plum of the horizon to deepen to violet, and the violet to deepen to a soft, dark blue, and for 2 more small stars to appear in the sky above the dunes. The wire outside hums, low and steady. The wind hisses gently across the linen roof. The fire in a hearth breathes slowly. The paint on the scroll dries, molecule by molecule, so slowly that you cannot see it, and yet so patiently that you know it is happening. The keeper finishes her cardamom water. She sets the empty cup on the sill of the eastern window. She rises slowly and returns to the low table. She looks at the scroll. The 3 shapes are dry now, or nearly so. She touches one very lightly with the back of her little finger, the indigo curl, and it does not smudge. She nods. Now, the finishing. She takes up a small vessel of pale oil and a soft cloth. She dips the corner of the cloth into the oil, and with the gentlest strokes, she draws it across the borders of the scroll, the long top edge, the long bottom edge, the 2 shorter sides. The oil settles into the paper along the edges and darkens them slightly, sealing them so that they will not fray. The oil smells faintly of almond and cedar. It is a warm, quiet smell, and it joins the cardamom and the smoke in the air of the small, round room. When the edges are done, she sets the cloth aside. She takes up the 2 small stones and lifts them from the ends of the scroll, one by one. The paper does not roll up by itself. It rests, obedient and calm, waiting to be gathered. She begins to roll. She rolls from the right edge, slowly, patiently, keeping the paper straight and even. The scroll makes the softest of sounds as it rolls, a papery rustle, a low, dry whisper, like the sound of a leaf turning over in a still garden. You listen, roll and roll, and the 3 shapes disappear one by one inside the closing paper. The indigo curl vanishes first, then the rose fan, then, last of all, the ochre comma. The scroll grows smaller and smaller under her hands, and at last it lies, complete, on the table, a slender cylinder of creamy paper, warm and quiet. She reaches for the coiled linen thread. She lifts it and wraps it around a scroll, once, twice, 3 times, and ties it with a slow, careful knot at the center. She holds the finished scroll in her hands for a moment. She turns it, once, gently. She looks at it, as one might look at a small, sleeping thing. Then she rises and crosses to the rack of niches along the wall. There's an empty niche waiting for the new scroll. It is at eye level, dry and cool. She lifts the scroll and slides it into the niche, gently, so that it rests among the others, pale beside pale, new beside old, waiting to be collected someday by a rider who is in no hurry. She lays her fingertips against the niche for a moment, as though saying goodnight. She lowers her hand. She turns back to the room. The work is done. Now the small tidying. She carries the 3 bowls of pigment to a shelf beside the cistern and covers each with a small ceramic lid. Ochre, rose, indigo. They will keep until they are needed again, though it may be many days, and it may be many weeks. and it does not matter. She washes her brushes in the clay cistern. The water darkens faintly as the pigment lifts from the bristles. She swirls each brush slowly and then wipes it on a soft cloth and stands each one, handle down, in a clay cup where they live. The broad brush, the fine brush, the smallest brush. They rest together, side by side, patient as always. She rinses the horn spoon. She sets it beside the bowls. She wipes the low table with a damp cloth. Long, slow strokes from one end to the other, once, and again, and again. The pale wood darkens a little with the wet, and lightens again as it dries. The surface is smooth. The surface is clean. She stands, hands on her hips, and looks around the room. The hearth is low now. The fire has burned down to embers, glowing softly, throwing a warm red-orange light onto the packed earth floor. The linen roof has darkened from within to a deep honey. The two small windows show the deep blue of the outside night, and in each, a small star hanging still. The keeper crosses to the hearth. She takes up a small stick and stirs the embers gently and sets a new piece of cedar upon them. The cedar catches slowly. A thin flame rises, patient and orange. The scent of the smoke deepens, dry, warm, familiar. She stands, watching the small flame for a long moment. Then she turns and crosses to the eastern window. She takes the empty cardamom cup from the sill and carries it to a low shelf beside the cistern. She sets it there. She rests her hand briefly on the cool clay of the cistern itself, feeling its steady weight, its long, slow coolness, its patience. She lowers her hand. She crosses now to the far side of the room, where a low bed is tucked into an alcove of the adobe wall. The bed is simple: a wooden frame, a mattress of pressed wool, a blanket of soft, undyed linen, a small pillow the color of dried lavender. Above the bed hangs a single lamp, unlit, its glass shade the color of pale amber. She does not lie down yet. She stands beside the bed and unwinds the wide indigo sash from her waist, slowly, and folds it, and lays it on a small wooden chest at the foot of the bed. She loosens the collar of her robe. She unbraids her long, dark hair, unhurried, weaving her fingers through it, letting it fall loose over her shoulders. She takes a small comb of pale wood from the chest and combs her hair, slowly, from crown to tip. The comb makes a soft, whispering sound. Her hair falls in a dark, quiet fall around her face. She sets the comb aside. She sits, at last, on the edge of the bed. She leans down and unbuckles her sandals and slides them from her feet and sets them side by side beneath the bed. She sits for a moment with her bare feet resting on the cool earth floor. She breathes in. She breathes out. The fire in the hearth breathes with her. The wire outside hums. The wind hushes on the linen roof. The scrolls in their niches wait, patient, patient, patient. Now, you may allow your own breath to slow. Notice the weight of your body against whatever is holding it. Notice the small warmth of your own hands. Notice how far away the day feels now, how far away the desk, the door, the list of things, the small worries that were with you when you first lay down. They are somewhere else. They are not here. Here, there's only the warm dim of the round room, the cedar smoke, the cardamom in the air, the soft rustle of a small linen blanket being drawn back, the quiet settling of a body onto a wool mattress. The keeper lies down. She lies on her side, one hand tucked beneath the lavender pillow, her hair spread dark on the linen. She draws the blanket up to her shoulder. She closes her eyes. She does not sleep at once. She listens. She listens to the fire, breathing softly. She listens to the wire, humming low. She listens to the wind, hushing on the linen. She listens to her own breath, coming and going, slow and even. Somewhere, far off across the dunes, a small night bird calls. Just once. A single, low, gentle note, like a bell. The keeper's breath deepens. Her breath slows. Her hand, resting on the blanket, loosens. She sleeps. And you may let yourself sleep too. You may let the small round room fade, if you like. You may let the keeper fade, and the fire, and the scrolls. You may let the desert fade, the dunes, the poles, the low apricot light that is now only a memory of light. You may let the words fade. Let your breath be slow. Let your hands be soft. Let your face be soft. Let your shoulders be soft. The scroll is finished. The paint is dry. The niche holds its small, quiet weight. The writer will come someday and take it away, and it does not matter when. You have nothing to carry. You have nothing to finish. You have nothing to remember. The wire hums. The wind hushes. The fire breathes. The apricot light lingers somewhere at the edge of the world. The sand whispers. The brush whispers. The paper whispers. Rest now. Rest. Let the low hum carry you. Let the soft hush carry you. Let the warm dim carry you. The dune. The pole. The tray. The ochre. The rose. The indigo. The brush. The paper. The scroll. The cardamom. The cedar. The cool clay of the cistern. The small star at the window. The small breath of the fire. The keeper. Sleeping. You. Sleeping. Rest now. Rest. Rest. Sleep well. The room is quiet. The fire is quiet. The wire is quiet. Outside, the desert holds its long, slow breath. The dunes are dark shapes against a darker sky. The poles stand where they have always stood, patient in their long line, each one holding its small round house in its palm. The wind moves across the sand, low and soft. It stirs the grains at the tops of the dunes. It moves them one by one, gentle as a hand smoothing linen. The dunes shift slowly, so slowly that no one could see it. Only the sand knows. Only the wind knows. The small round house sways just a little on its pole. The wire creaks once softly. The linen at the window lifts and settles. The star at the window is joined, in time, by another star, and another, and another. The whole slow field of them, brightening in the deep blue above the dunes. You may see the stars if you like, or you may not. It does not matter. Inside, the keeper sleeps. Her breath is even. Her hand is soft on the blanket. Her face is soft against the linen. The scroll rests in its niche, tied with its thin cord. The paints are stoppered. The brushes are clean, standing in their little clay jar, bristles up, patient. The fire has burned low. The coals glow softly, apricot and rose. They breathe, slow and warm. They do not need anything. They are content to be coals. The kettle sits on the hearthstone, cool now, its work done. The bowl of cardamom sits on the low table, its small, dark seeds waiting for morning. The lamp at the window burns low, its flame small as a fingernail, steady as a held breath. Everything in the small, round room is where it belongs. Everything has been placed with care. Everything has been given its time and its place and its small share of the light. There's nothing left to do. There's nothing left to finish. There's nothing left to carry. You are here, in the warm dim, in the low hum, in the soft hush. You are held by the small round room, and the small round room is held by the pole, and the pole is held by the sand, and the sand is held by the desert, and the desert is held by the long, slow night. You are held. You are held. You may let the holding be enough. Far off across the dunes, another small round house sways on another pole. Its window shows a low, warm light. Inside, another keeper sleeps, or perhaps sits quietly by a small fire, or perhaps paints a small scroll of her own. The ochre, the rose, the indigo, the dune, the pole, the tray. It does not matter which. The work is the same. The rest is the same. Farther still, another light, and farther still, another. The long line of them, stretching across the desert, small and warm and patient, like a strand of beads laid down on dark cloth. You may see them, if you like, the little lights, one after another, out across the sand. Or you may let them fade. It is all the same. The wind moves. The sand shifts. The wire hums, low and steady. The linen at the window lifts and settles. The fire breathes. Somewhere, the small night bird calls again. One low note. A bell across the dunes. Then nothing. Then only the wind and the wire and the fire. Time is loose here. Time is soft here. Time is not counted and not measured and not held to any purpose. The hours move as the sand moves, a grain at a time, slow, unwatched. The night lasts as long as the night lasts. The dawn will come when it comes. You do not need to wait for the dawn. You do not need to wait for anything. You may rest in the middle of the night, in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the small round room, in the middle of your own slow breath. Your breath comes in. Your breath goes out. Your breath comes in. Your breath goes out. That is enough. That is enough. The apricot light of the coals softens further. The rose light softens further. The indigo of the deep window softens further, into the dark. The colors of the day have gone into the scroll, and the scroll has gone into the niche, and the niche is a small, dark shape in the wall, holding what it holds. Someday, a rider will come. The rider will be unhurried. The rider will move slowly across the sand on some patient animal in some gentle season. The rider will stop at the pole. The keeper will lower the small basket on its long, thin rope. The scroll will go into the basket, tied with its thin cord. The basket will rise. The rider will move on. That is all. That is all that will happen, and it will happen when it happens, and it will be a small and quiet thing, and no one will hurry it, and no one will need it to be more than it is. You do not need to think of the rider. You do not need to think of the scroll. You do not need to think of the small basket, or the long, thin rope, or the patient animal, or the gentle season. You may let all of it go. You may let the pole go. You may let the wire go. You may let the linen at the window go. You may let the fire go, and the kettle, and the bowl of cardamom, and the low table, and the small clay jar of brushes. You may let the keeper go. Her breath is her own now, and it is even, and she is well. You may let the small round room go. You may let the desert go, the dunes, and the poles, and the long line of little lights, and the small night bird, and the wind across the sand. You may let the words go. Let your breath be slow. Let your breath be soft. Let your breath do only what it does without your help. Your hands are soft. Your face is soft. Your shoulders are soft. Your jaw is soft. Your brow is soft. Your eyes are soft. Behind their soft closed lids, everything in you is soft. Everything in you is held. Everything in you is allowed to rest. The wire hums. The wind hushes. The fire breathes. The scroll rests. The keeper sleeps. You sleep. Or if you do not sleep, that is well too. You may lie in the warm dim, in the soft hush, in the low hum, and let the night hold you. The night is patient. The night is long. The night has no plan for you. You do not need to sleep on any schedule. You do not need to sleep in any particular way. Sleep will come, or rest will come, and either is enough. The dunes shift so slowly. The sand moves, one grain at a time. The stars turn so slowly above the poles. The keeper's breath goes in and out, and in and out. You breathe with the keeper if you like, or you breathe on your own, or you do not think of breathing at all, and your breath goes on without you, as it always has, quiet and true. The apricot light, the rose light, the indigo dark, the ochre, the rose, the indigo, the cardamom, the cedar, the cool clay, the dune, the pole, the tray, the brush, the paper, the scroll, the small star at the window, the small breath of the fire, the small hum of the wire, the small hush of the wind. Rest now. Rest. Somewhere, far off, the small night bird calls once more. One low note, then silence, then only the wind. The wind moves over the small round house. The wind moves over the pole. The wind moves over the dunes. The wind moves on and on and on across the whole slow desert. And everywhere it goes, it is soft. And everywhere it goes, it is gentle. And everywhere it goes, it says only, rest, 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 rest. The fire is low. The lamp is low. The stars are high and slow. The keeper sleeps. The scroll rests in its niche. You are held in the warm dim. You are held in the soft hush. You are held in the low hum. You have nothing to carry. You have nothing to finish. You have nothing to remember. Let your breath be slow. Let your body be soft. Let the small, round room be dim and warm and quiet. Let the desert be wide and dark and patient. Let the stars be far and slow and kind. Let the wind be soft. Let the sand be still. Let the wire hum, low, low, low. Let the fire breathe, slow, slow, slow. Let the night be long. Let the night be long. Let the night be long. There's nowhere else to be. There's nothing else to do. There's no one waiting. There's no task remaining. There's only the small round room. Only the low hum. Only the soft hush. Only the warm dim. Only your slow breath. Only your slow breath. Only your slow breath. You may drift now. You may drift. You may drift as the sand drifts, one grain at a time, slow and unwatched. You may drift as the dunes drift, so slowly that no one could see it. You may drift as the keeper drifts, into a sleep that is deep and kind. You may drift as the small round house drifts, so gently, on its pole, in the soft night wind. Drift now. Drift. The apricot light lingers at the edge of the world. The stars are turning, slowly. The wind is moving, softly. The fire is breathing, low. The wire is humming, low. The keeper is sleeping. The scroll is resting. You are resting. The desert holds you. The night holds you. The small round room holds you. You are held. You are held. You are held. Rest now. Rest. Rest. Let the dune fade. Let the pole fade. Let the small round house fade. Let the linen at the window fade. Let the fire fade. Let the coals fade. Let the kettle fade. Let the bowl of cardamom fade. Let the low table fade. Let the brushes fade. Let the paints fade. Let the scroll fade. Let the niche fade. Let the keeper fade. Let the room fade. Let the desert fade. Let the stars fade. Let the wind fade. Let the words fade. Let your body be soft. Let your breath be slow. Let your mind be quiet. Let everything be quiet. Everything is quiet. Everything is quiet. Everything is quiet. The wire hums, so low it is almost silence. The wind hushes, so soft it is almost silence. The fire breathes, so slow it is almost silence. And then it is silence. Only silence. Only your breath. Only your slow, soft, gentle breath. In, out, in, out. That is enough. That is enough. You may sleep now. You may sleep. Sleep well. The apricot light lingers. The small star at the window. The small breath of the fire. The small hum of the wire. The keeper. Sleeping. You. Sleeping. Rest now. Rest. Sleep. Sleep. Sleep well. The night is long, and the night is kind, and the night is yours. The desert holds its long, slow breath. The dunes are still. The poles are still. The little lights across the sand are still. Everything is still. Everything is still. Sleep now. Sleep. And if some soft thought comes, let it drift by like a grain of sand on the wind. You do not need to hold it. You do not need to follow it. Let it drift and drift and drift away into the dark, into the soft, into the quiet. Your breath is slow. Your body is soft. Your mind is quiet. You are held. You are held. You are held. The keeper's small fire glows softly in a room you have already begun to forget. The scroll rests in its niche. In a wall you have already begun to forget. The pole stands patient in the sand, under a sky you have already begun to forget. You do not need to remember. You do not need to remember. Let it all soften. Let it all soften. Let it all soften. The words are soft now. The words are far now. The words are almost gone. Only the breath remains. Only the breath. Only the breath. In, out, in, out. Slow, soft, slow, soft. Sleep now. Sleep, sleep, sleep well. Somewhere, a very long way off, a small night bird calls once more. One low note, like a bell you barely hear, like a bell that is already fading. And then the bell is gone, and then the wind is gone, and then the wire is gone, and then the fire is gone, and then the room is gone, and then the desert is gone, and then there is only you, and your slow breath, and the soft dark, and the quiet. Rest here. Rest here. You are safe. You are warm. You are held. You are held. You are held. Sleep. 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 Sleep well. The night will keep you. The night will keep you. The night will keep you. Gentle and long, until the soft light of morning comes, whenever it comes, without hurry, without call. You do not need to wait for it. You do not need to wait for anything. Only rest. Only rest. Only rest. The apricot light lingers somewhere at the edge of the world. A memory of light, a hint of light, a whisper of light. And then even the whisper softens and softens and softens into the soft dark of sleep. Sleep now. Sleep. Sleep. Sleep well. Sleep well. Sleep well. you.